encourage you to get theft.
What? All things the game of bowling.
Helping bowlers.
The hand collapses down.
And I'm going to try to bowl the best I can.
2,000 subscribers. 2,000 subscribers.
I want to challenge Chad Nelson.
Tom Corbett.
Jason Belmonte.
Well, hey everyone, welcome to Thursday night here at Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live right here on our YouTube channel. Hopefully you're live with us. I know the timing is a little different than we usually do, but we've got a great guest, and hopefully that more than makes up for it. Those of you live, thank you so much for tuning in, maybe in conjunction with or instead of the presidential debate. But those of you who opted that way, welcome to replay. And please feel free to leave a comment if you have the chance. I read them all and certainly appreciate all that engagement. One thing I want to mention before we get going with our guest is the PBA Elite League. They have chosen their MVP for the year, and it is Andrew Anderson. He is the MVP of the first ever PBA Elite League regular season, because as you'll remember, they changed the format this year to give it some time to breathe, I guess you could say. A bunch of different events and culminating in the playoffs coming up. Here's how the voting broke down. It was a panel of PBA officials that voted on the MVP contenders and eventual winner. You've got Anderson up top with Las Vegas at 150 points. Behind him was Packy Hanrahan from the New Jersey team at 60, Jason Belmonte at 45, Justin Knoll at 15, and then a three-way tie at 10 with Tom Smallwood, Jason Sterner, and Kyle Troop. The playoffs are at Bayside Bowl in Portland, Maine, starting on September 15th. You'll see quarterfinal action starting that afternoon at 4 p.m. Wisconsin time on FS1. Anderson's top-seeded Las Vegas High Rollers will either face the Motown Muscle or New Jersey Kingpins the next day. And of course, you'll see that on FS1 as well. Congratulations to Mr. Anderson on winning that MVP award. Connor Brown with us live says he was glad that he was able to make it tonight. He has been very busy. Hope that's a good thing. Connor was one of our previous guests on the show. So if you are here live like Connor, give that live chat a workout. It's up there. It's there for you. Let us know what you think. If you have any questions or anything like that, that's the place to pose those questions. Hey, I do want to remind you that we do have a merch store now. It's at etsy.com/shop/bowlingwiththefefco. We have t-shirts. We have hoodies. Thanks to my production partner, Sam Zappa Henriksmeyer. You can outfit yourself in one of these bad boys. Spares will get you to Sunday. That's what one of my college teammates, Troy Werline, used to say. So we call that one the Werline. There's also a Wisconsin version. Great quality stuff and a great way to support the channel and bowling. Go ahead, give it a look. Connor says he just had an 8-game sweeper in Hampton, Virginia, and finished 8th out of 60. Congratulations. That's awesome. Glad to hear you're having the success there in the tournaments over in Virginia. That's good stuff. And hopefully that encourages you to bowl even more, because that's always good. Good for you, good for the sport. And now a word from our sponsor.
Handmade salsa is great, but it's such a hassle. Cutting yourself, the constant waiting, burning yourself. Oh, look at that mess. Oh. Raise your snack standards. Chip Magnet Salsa.
Raise your snack standards. Make them tall and proud, and get into some Chip Magnet Salsa. They sponsor Bowling with the Fef, and they are based in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, distributing salsa and relish and a whole lot more to stores in more than 38 states and Canada. Or you can also find them online at chipmagnetsalsa.com. And if you order at least $30 worth of product, enter the promo code BWTF2024 at checkout. You'll get 25% off your order, and there is no limit on that bad boy. So stock up, because Chip Magnet is the real deal. Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. And as always, thank you so much to Chip Magnet for supporting bowling and Bowling with the Fef. Well, our guest for tonight has more than his fair share of accomplishments on the lane, and a few that he's setting his sights on in the months ahead. He's starting things off with a high-level tournament in Arizona, the 10K CBE, actually we'll reverse those, CBE 10K Cactus Classic. It starts on the 28th, that's tomorrow, runs through June 30th at Lakeview Lanes in Sun City, Arizona, and as the title would have you understand, first place is worth $10,000. A great tournament. If you're interested in finding out more, you can always email me. I can get you connected with the tournament director, but you're going to have to get through this man, among others. Matt Jones, if I can get that banner back down, is here with us live. He is the birthday boy, quite literally. Thank you so much for joining, and happy birthday.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad to be on this podcast, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. A year older, a year wiser, and a year more experienced on the lanes for sure. When Theo came on, Theo Douthit, the tournament director at the 10K Classic, he shared his perspective about kind of how that thing came to be, the origins, the car rides with you, going back and forth to New Mexico to bowl high-level events over there. What was that like from your perspective? And tell me about how you saw those conversations. Did you see them resulting in what you guys have down there now?
I was hoping it would. Theo was running tournaments prior to then. And, we're always traveling to Vegas, California, New Mexico, bowling all these 10K events. And I always got to him. I was like, man, why can't we just run one in Arizona? I was like, maybe we could run one in the winter when our weather is great in the winter. It's not snowy. It feels like spring for most other like Midwest, Eastern states. So I always try to get in his ear like, dude, we should really run a 10K tournament. I think you can do it. And then we were just coming up with ideas of like, what should the format be? What type of players are we trying to attract? Like sponsorships, and then, boom, like 3-4 years later, he got the itch to do it. And then we got the center, and then now he's going on the third year.
Yeah. What are you expecting this year as far as, I think he's released the pattern, and you probably know the format now.
Yes. The scoring pace, I think, is going to be about the same it has the last couple of years. Usually around even, a little bit plus to make the top 7 in each squad. The place we bowl at's pretty high friction. So 26 mils probably plays closer to like 23 mils, 43 feet probably plays closer to 39 feet. It's just a high friction center. So the middles are going to be hooking quite a bit. So I could see, depending on who you follow, who's in your squad, scores could be up there, but I mean, for the most part, I think even about 20-30 over is going to make the top 7 in each squad.
Okay. Gotta ask, $10,000 on top. It's not like we all have $10,000 laying around.
Right.
If you are, both on your game, catch the breaks, you take that top prize, what do you do with $10,000?
Vacation, like with the family. First and foremost, I'm fortunate enough to have a decent job. Same with my wife. So vacation, definitely for sure.
There you go. Good plan. Connor says happy birthday to you, Matt, and many, many more.
Appreciate it, Connor. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, good guy. Like I said, came on a previous episode and, of course, did well in his tournament back in his hometown. Let's get started with your story. You were telling me, before we came on that you've been in Arizona since age 5, but you weren't born there. Where were you born?
Ogden, Utah. So my dad was in the military, so stationed out in Ogden. So I was there for 5 years. Don't remember much of it. But then moved out to Arizona, and he was on base there, and that's where I started to learn how to bowl, is on the base.
Okay. So what's that like at a military base? I know it's going to be hard to remember everything because you were so young, but do you have, I guess, any recollection about that environment?
I do. It was pretty just seeing a lot of the military there. Obviously, he was with the Air Force, and they liked to bowl back then. Back then, and bowling was huge for them. So I go in there Saturday mornings while he was on base working, and I go in there with my mom and, bowl a bunch. And then eventually, got into bowling really heavy on the base and on base. A lot of those guys bowl for free. So I did when I was younger. So I got to bowl a lot. And then I finally got into it to where I wanted to actually learn how to bowl like my dad.
Okay. And how often did your dad do it? And
on base, he was probably bowling. He was bowling like 3-4 leagues a week while he was on base. He's always been around a 220 average bowler, fairly straight, nothing fancy, down and in. Never won anything really huge, but he wasn't like no slouch either. You know what I mean?
Sure. What did your dad do to kind of foster that growth in you? Because you mentioned that, you got into it, it heavy. There's some passion, some drive there. And I wonder, was he behind some of that?
Yeah, he was, absolutely. He always encouraged it. Once he seen me really getting into bowling, he was always encouraging, like, hey, let's do some leagues. Let's drill you some bowling balls. So it was always encouraging me, teaching me how to bowl, get me to that next level. And then once I got to a certain point with my bowling, I was able to kind of take it from there and then kind of learn from some of the better bowlers, some of the ones who had like more knowledge about lane play and stuff like that. But he got me to that point. So
sure. You end up in Arizona. How does that affect, your ability to bowl, your access, things like that?
I had great access, thankfully, because of the base. They had a pro shop in the base too. So my access was pretty easy. And like I said, bowling in Arizona was pretty huge for a while. Now we have a bunch of bolero centers out here, not a whole lot of independent like most states do. A lot of states have independent centers. We don't have very many. I think we have 4-5 independent centers. The rest are bolero ran.
Okay. So yeah, where I live, the closest bolero is like 90 miles away. So
they're all it's the opposite for sure. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Look who we've got live here. Theo Douthit, Theft and Jonesy, two great people. Well,
what's up, Theo?
Takes one to know one, right?
Right, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah. And so glad that he came on and also challenged you. It's funny because this is kind of like I'm trying to think, because I'm based in Wisconsin, and yet the Arizona guys have really come out strong. We've had Theo on, Carl, and it all kind of started with Robert Smith. I reached out to Robert Smith. Robert Smith challenges Carl. Carl challenges Theo. Brianna comes on. So way to plant your flag in the ground.
We have a strong community in Arizona for sure.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Your physical game. How would you say you developed your physical game?
So my dad got me started. I was straighter. And then, you start watching PBA on TV. So you start I watched guys when I was younger was Norm Duke, Pete Weber, Walter Ray, Steve Hoskins. And, being the young guy, I'm like, oh, I want to throw it like Pete Weber. I want to throw it like Steve Hoskins. And so my game developed from being a straighter player, low rev player, to now I'm a 450, 460 rev rate and get around it quite a bit. And I kind of taught myself how to develop the rev rate just by watching guys like Pete Weber on TV and Steve Hoskins and how they do it.
Yeah. It's cool to see that for those of us who are kind of growing in the sport or maybe can't do it ourselves, but it takes, like I said, not all of us can do that. Is there a secret sauce? Is there some way that, that you can point to and say, yep, that's how I was able to really, increase my revolutions on the bowling ball?
Honestly, it was just constantly watching those guys and how they do with their wrist. Because not only, the guys do it with the elbow and the wrist and the collapsing now. Back then, it was all done with the hand and the wrist. They didn't have much elbow bend. It was wrist and fingers. So I kind of got fortunate just practicing it so much that I got pretty decent at it.
Yeah.
And so once I see that, I was like, oh, wow, now I'm even more in the bowling. Now I want to do more. And then, I could hook the ball pretty good. And then I eventually had to develop a spare game to get better. So
yeah, we all do, right?
Right.
Yours will get you to Sunday.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's talk honor scores. When did you have your first one?
15. When I was 15. No, sorry, 14. Shot my first 300 when I was 14. And then I didn't shoot my first 800 till I was 16, I believe.
Okay.
I can't even tell you the ball. My first 300 was with a red alert danger zone. And then my first 800, I believe, was with the combat zone. The Pearl combat zone was my first 8.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And since then, obviously, you've had a ton of them. So
yes, I've rattled off a few.
Yeah. Have they come in bunches? Have they been kind of consistent throughout your career?
I've had years where I've only had probably like 5 or 6 300s, but I'm pretty consistent, averaging about 7 or 8. But I've had some seasons where I've gotten to 13, 14 for like 6 or 7 years. Where I fit like this year, I think I'm at 13 300s now, and 12 800s for the year. So
that's crazy. Yeah, and in total, we're talking what, 260 plus 300?
Yeah, and then I think I'm in the 160s and 8s now.
Oh my god!
I mean, not all of them have counted, because I know if you look up USBC, because I know some people are going to. We're talking just tournaments over my career. There's a bunch of people who don't tournament. Everyone knows that. But just over my career, I'm probably, like I said, right around 260 and 160.
Ah, okay. And look at this, breaking news.
Ongoing joke, because Hammer just announced new bowling balls Tuesday, and Theo and them joking that I've already shot 300 with them, and I haven't even drilled them yet. So, and it's because I just shot another 300 just this past Monday, trying out some different layouts on bowling balls, and then a couple weeks ago I had a 300 in the same center, and then I had 300 800 in the King of the Hill, and we bowl on some, like, our centers are not hard though. At the same time, it's not like I'm splitting boards and like killing them, you know what I mean? Some centers we bowl at are soft, and it's a little easier to get honor scores.
Yeah, for sure. Was there an opportunity for you to compete in the high school ranks, anything like that?
Oh, we didn't have high school bowling back then.
Okay.
We did, and I'm sure you know about a junior bowlers tour, Southwest out here, ran by Jeff Humer. I bowled his first year. The first year he started it, 1996. I was handicap bowler of the year.
Okay.
So I started, that's where it got the competitiveness, when I started bowling against the people like Andrew Kane and Shannon Pulaski back then. So that's where I've got my butt handed to quite a bit by them.
But you have to in
absolutely. That's how you get better. I've always told myself, and that the only way you get better is to bowl the best. And like, I can care less if I win, lose, whatever. I just like competing against the best when I have the opportunity.
Sure. What did you see in yourself, either physically or mentally, as you're having your butt handed to you? But
right.
I mean, bowling in those more competitive environments.
Just that I had a lot of heart. Like, I've never given up in a tournament. Even if I don't have a look or a shot, say I'm just completely lost, I will use those games to learn how to bowl on that stuff. Because I just don't like embarrassing myself, is what I call it for myself. It's just something for me when I'm bowling on something really hard. I mean, I could be 300 under, but I can guarantee you that next time, if there's a re-entry, I build that next squad, I'm going to be a lot closer to making the cut or have a chance to lead.
I like how you describe that, though, because it's different than a lot of the guests I've had on here. You said, I have a lot of heart. And I would think a lot of people, a lot of bowlers would say, well, it's a puzzle that I have to solve. It's a brain game. It's, it's deep in thought. Do you saying it takes a lot of heart, does that mean there's emotion in it for you when
absolutely,
when you're going through that?
Absolutely is. Because it's just if I feel like if I'm not trying, I'm giving up on myself.
Yeah.
So what I mean by heart is just the drive to not kind of just sink into like just bowling bad and then just leaving it as is. Me, I always feel like when you're bowling bad is when it's the biggest opportunity to learn something. Because when you're winning, you're not really learning anything. You're just winning. You're bowling at your best. But when you're bowling at your worst is really where you see how good you can be, what you need to work on. And those are the things that make you better. Like, losing makes you better.
Yeah. And you're able to make that floor kind of rise and the ceiling along with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And pretty soon, I imagine, you're doing better in those JBTs. You're competing.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, sometimes you're just the physical hasn't caught up to the mental yet. And that's what happened to me throughout juniors. I didn't win a bunch. I mean, when you bowl against people like Andrew and Shannon, you're not going to win a whole lot anyway. I mean, they're just insanely good and still to continue to be good these days. But once I got into the adult ranks, my mental started catching up to my physical game, and it just started translating into wins and honor scores and stuff like that. And I always try to stay humble because, like, anyone asks me how many honor scores you got, I'm like, I have a few. Like, I don't try to brag about it, whatever, because there's so many good bowlers out there, especially on the tour, that could care less about the honor scores, that, they're looking, you know what I mean? So I just try to stay as humble as I possibly can too. That helps me stay grounded and still be able to compete and be, humble about it.
Sure. Was there an important moment, a signature moment that really kind of maybe turned how you thought about competing and the sport and all that? Something that, gave you some momentum or some more confidence that you really kind of draw from when you look back on it?
So out here, we used to have these tournaments called ACBA. So they're like the highest competition you can bowl for Arizona. So we bowled against guys like Brett Wolf and all them. And once I started like making cuts in those, once I started cashing, and then when I got my first win is when I really started to have the confidence, like, hey, I can compete with some of these guys at the highest level. And so, from there on out, I think I ended up with like 18 or 19 ACBA titles, something like that. I got a state masters title, it translated to some pretty big wins for me.
Yeah. It's going to happen differently for all of us when we get that confidence.
Right.
But, what did it do for you? I mean, did you see more strikes? Did you see better spare percentage? Did you, was there one aspect of your game that kind of
my spare shooting got better because I understood that the only way to compete with the guys at the higher level is you had to make your makeable spares. Because I don't know how many times I would throw 10 strikes in a game, but I had 2 opens. And then, when they got really hard and I couldn't spare consistently, those guys are shooting 190, 180, I was struggling. I'm shooting 140, 150, 160 and just behind by a bunch. So I used to play catch up a lot. So once I wasn't as versatile at the time. So once the shot came to me, yeah, I can average 260 for the last 3, but I was 150 pins behind the players who were really good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. You said you had a taste of the college game too.
I did.
It's a community college, I believe.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Tell me what that was like to to kind of team up with some of those guys and compete against other college teams.
A whole different environment. It's so different when you're not used to how intense the team environment is. Like college as a whole, and now it's even crazier. Like so many teams, so many good coaches. Back then there was like 3 or 4 colleges that just dominated. Wichita State, Saginaw Valley, Western Illinois. Those are the guys we bowled against back then. And I mean, we're just a small community college, so we didn't have like the heavy hitter players like they did. But I loved it. I enjoyed every bit of it. I even had a year stint at ASU under Jordan Asberg. I'm sure you know who Jordan Asberg is.
Heard the name,
bowled a year under him. Ended up getting a couple of titles, made it to nationals with ASU for 1 year. But then outside of that, just stayed with adult bowling and amateur bowling. But the college aspect's awesome. I would recommend it to any junior bowler coming up. If you can get into college bowling, that's definitely an experience you want to have.
Oh, yeah. I'll second that, too. We've got the Agent Ong Open here with Carl Ong. I agree with Theo. How many 300s did he shoot in the last 20 minutes? We've been on for 23. So if he shot 300, he did it, without my knowing about it. No, it's funny because I did reach out to Carl before the show and asked him about some of your success on the lanes and what kind of made that happen. He said that you are truly one of the best bowlers in the Southwest, that you are super dedicated to practice and you know exactly how to strategize for each game. He says your ability to read the lanes and adjust is what really makes you shine. That's got to be a big part of everybody's game, but few of us become experts at it.
Right.
What does it take for you to, to truly, make that confident move, whether it be on, on the approach with wrist position, whatever, the case may be, and commit to it?
It took me a while. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'd always second guess myself, and then it got to the point that I was getting tired of being behind 6 frames to these guys who were like fearless. Like when you bowl against like the Jacob Buttross and stuff like that, because that's now who we compete with, and the Cortezes. You're like, man, they just made a move and didn't even think twice. And they could be on a 5-bagger and they'll change balls. And so I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? Just don't second guess yourself. Just make the move. So that's what I started doing. And that's kind of what changed things is I just, for the most part, don't second guess myself. And I try to see what the scoring pace is looking like to see if I just need to hit the pocket and get 9, or if I need to make a big move to try to strike quite a bit to keep up with the field.
Yeah.
So I definitely always watch scoring pace for sure.
Sure. And that kind of thing takes practice. What does a practice session look like for you?
A lot of for me, I'm a feel player, so I'm not super technical. So I can normally, I've been doing it for so long now that I can feel when something's off for my game. So I'll practice a lot of just feel. And then if I feel like I need to learn a pattern, I'll go to a center that could put the pattern up. But we know topography obviously plays the biggest part in that. But it's just to get reps in, and then just to see what like these 6 or 7 balls I feel like I'm going to throw, to see what their biggest differences are when I have to make those transitions.
Yeah. It's one of those things in the modern game where you see, certain moves maybe in league or in a shorter format thing.
Right.
But then you get to something like CBEs, like the 10K events, like I'm sure the Agent On Open is, and you've got high rev players, equipment that's just sucking up oil nonstop, and you're having to make huge moves, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I use fill balls in the 10th frame. Unless I'm shooting a 300 game, I'm using that fill ball to see what my next transition is going to be. So like if I need to move way left, I'll make a 15 board move left, try a ball just to see what it looks like. So I just get some information for the next few games.
Yeah, for sure. Another, of course, Theo here live had to ask him too. He said that you're pretty well-rounded when it comes to lane play. He said you've led the New Mexico Open before, also the youngest Phoenix USBC Hall of Famer. He also added probably one of the nicest people you could meet on the lanes as well. But tell me about that Hall of Fame induction. I mean, that's got to be a special moment for you, right?
Oh, it absolutely was. My dad passed away about 7 years ago now. And so it was definitely super special because it was really for him because he's the one that got me started in bowling. So to get to the Hall of Fame is crazy. It's awesome. My next goal is to hit the State Hall of Fame. But there's so many people I can think that got me there. Theo's one of them. Guys like Brett Wolf, Ben Laughlin, like these old school players that some people might recognize, always helped me when I had questions. So I always try to pay it forward with anyone else on the lanes. Like I'm never mean to anybody. If they can ask me a question, even when I'm struggling, and I'll try to answer it to the best of my ability and try to help them as much as I can. Cause I got that treatment when I was younger, trying to learn. And so I feel like I just got to pay it forward to the other young kids who are trying to learn too.
That's really cool. That's cool of you to do, and a great reflection of probably how you were raised as well. Speaking of your dad, so kudos to you on that. Who do we have here? Who's this guy?
This guy just recently struck out last night to beat me in King of the Hill. That's Derek Acuff. That would be my ball driller as well. He works for Virtue Bowling Supply out here in Arizona, a shop that I go to. I've been with them since day one. He's my ball driller that kind of got my arsenal in check this year. I could thank a lot of my success to him because he got my arsenal looking insanely good. We came up with different layouts for me to compete a little bit more and to be able to deal with transitions better, make it easier for me to switch balls. He's definitely been a part of my success this year. Like I've had a pretty good year in bowling. Definitely not going to lie about that. I've had a great year, especially at my age. I'm pretty happy with it. He's definitely been a big part of it. And yes, last night he struck out to beat me in the King of the Hill 239 to 237. And it's not the first time he's done it. He's done it often to me. He throws it really well.
So is Corrine his sister?
That's his wife.
His wife. Okay.
Yep, that's his wife. And then, everyone knows Corrine. She throws it great too. But yeah, I've taken a beat from both of them before.
If, I noticed his shirt, if you come out there on the lanes in Arizona and you're not wearing EFX, are you like persona non grata?
For the most part, yeah. Now I'm with Royal Flush with Pharaoh's brand.
Okay.
But I'm still super friendly with Brianna, Randy. But yeah, EFX out here is pretty strong. Sure,
I bet. Yeah. One of the other events that you had some success at was, the Agent Ong Open. And I want to talk a little bit about, that because you finished in 13th. But I want to start out with the night before, right? The Sweep the Rack Sweeper. You're sitting there holding the big check with the trophy, Brooklyn Rob with the, with that grin right over your shoulder.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I asked Carl about that performance and what he thought really stood out. And he said it was that you were, really cool and collected under pressure. He said even against tough competition, you kept your calm, you nailed some clutch shots when it mattered most, and that you just know how to win. Is that something that comes natural to you, or is that something you had to learn?
No, that's something I had to learn. I've taken my fair share of beatings from a lot of great bowlers. Just something to learn how to stay calm under those pressures, not get too amped up, because my biggest thing is I get amped up and then what do? I grab it, I throw it harder, ball goes all over the place. So I've learned not to really score watch for the most part, unless I absolutely positively have to. So I've learned how to just be calmer, just try to make the best shot I can and not to get overly upset about it. If I throw a good shot, I wrap 10, I'm not that upset. It happens, it's bowling. If I throw a bad shot, then I'm going to be a little upset by myself because I expect a little bit better out of myself. But for the most part, if I can make a quality shot, I hit the pocket, then, not much I can do at that point. So, but yeah, I definitely learned how to be a little more calmer, especially as I got older. Having kids and everything else definitely makes bowling not seem as so emotional, harsh. You get super angry when you make a bad shot, and I still do occasionally, don't get me wrong. But having kids and having a family definitely changes that perspective, because it doesn't make it, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but it doesn't make it as important as it probably was when I was in my 20s. So now I'm in my 40s, family is the most important. So even when I struggle, I get to come home to a good family, so I'm not that upset.
Yeah, the big picture changes a little bit, and for some folks that really helps them, on the lanes as well as off.
Right.
So Sweep the Rack Sweeper, Agent Ong Open, they're both first time events. How cool is that to win that first time sweeper?
Oh, that's awesome. I've gotten a few sweeper wins. New Mexico Open, I've won their sweeper before. Mini Eliminator back then, won a couple of their sweepers, won a high roller sweeper. I'm pretty good at sweepers for the most part. I'm so used to the sprint formats from the TAT. So I've bowled the TAT since its inception, and those are 3-game sprints. Yeah. So I'm pretty used to 3-game sprints for the most part. The fact that I won, it's still pretty awesome, because that competition in that field, I'm in the middle of the pack. There's so many great players. So the fact that I got the win was nice. And then the fact to finish into the top 16 into the Agent Ong Open was also another, feather in the cap as well.
Yeah. What do you think of that whole thing, kind of in hindsight? They put on this event, they got all the participation, they've got another one coming up.
Right.
How do you go about reviewing that now that it's kind of in the rearview mirror and you've got another one coming up this fall?
It's just kind of the same way. I love the way he ran the event. He did a great job with it. Got a lot of quality players out there, Simonson, Robert Smith, and, hopefully more to come this year. I just like being able to compete, man. I love it. It's so much fun. And Carl does a great job, as well as Theo does. So I'm even more excited that we have 2 tournaments where 10K is on top. And I just look forward to it even more now. Now I got a doubles match coming up against Andrew Kane and Brett Wolf, which is even more exciting. Carl runs a great event, man. So I'm looking forward to it, just like I'm looking forward to Theo's event this weekend. Just being able to compete is great for me. I just love competition. I just love what it brings out of people. And whether I bowl good or not, man, I just like being around good people, and I like bowling great tournaments. So I think Carl's tournament this year, I think it's going to be more successful than it was last year.
Yeah. You see how I was ready for you with the
Oh, you were. You absolutely
there?
were. Yep, me and my boy Kyle King, righties against lefties, man. I can't wait, man. It's going to be a great match.
Yeah. Carl called it 4 top-notch Arizona guys ready to go head-to-head. It's going to be an epic match. What do you think it's going to take to win that?
Well, knowing Carl, the pattern's hard. In match play last year, they got pretty easy. That's because you had, 30 people, 40 people who knew what they were doing to the lane. So we opened them up and made them pretty easy. But, I mean, we're going to have to bowl the sweepers and kind of get an idea. But I know we are bowling on the pattern fresh. So it's going to be basically how me and Kyle are going to break them down for ourselves to give us the best chance. I mean, score-wise, probably won't take much, man. They're still going to be hard. Could be 440s to start. And then if we make them easier, it could be 470s. But Brett and Andrew, I mean, they have accolades that are insane. I mean, Brett Wolf, 2000 ABC Masters champion, throwing urethane when it wasn't a popular thing. Like he might have been one of the few guys that kind of start that, urethane on sport patterns look great. So, I mean, he dominated that event. If I remember, he shot 260 against Dennis Moran. And then Andrew, I mean, his name's all over the place, no matter where you go, PBA, amateur events, Team USA, USBC. I mean, Andrew is just accurate and crazy good. So I can't wait, man. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm great friends with both of them. So probably a lot of trash talking will happen too, which I'm looking forward to as well. And then Brett's actually helped me with my game this year. He's coached me a little bit. So, if he does lose, it's his fault. I mean,
but that's even cooler for you if you guys win, because you kind of get to show them what's up. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, that's awesome. And I do have the flyer here for the Asian Dong Open that's coming up the 17th through the 20th of October. Another 10K event on top, and of course all the side action that you could ever hope to want at Bolero Kyrene. You mentioned bigger and better. Carl has, put out there that he's got someone on social media now. He's really excited about this. I mean, it's 3 months ahead of time and we're already talking about it. So, I mean, how cool is that to have it back again?
I love it. It was such a good event last year that I was really hoping he was going to do it again this year. And then now this year it's bigger, better. He's got the sponsors. He knows how to market really well. He's got Theo helping him run the tournament, which Theo is so great at running tournaments. Man, I'm excited, and I hope it stays around for as long as it possibly can.
Yeah. Again, if people are interested, hit me up on email. I can connect you with Carl. And
definitely bowl it. I think so. I think you definitely have to. If you love competition, you definitely should. And there's so many different ways to make money. And then on top of that, it's Arizona in October, so there's no snow. You're not going to see crazy weather from us. We'll probably be in the 80s, which is really pretty good weather for us out here. So, I mean, you're coming in at a time where our weather's not terrible. And I believe our state fair is going on at that same time too. So a lot to do around here. Yeah.
Jeez. See, if I came down and bowled it, I probably wouldn't leave until June.
Right. And then our, like I said, and then our golfing, everyone loves the golfing in Arizona. I know that. Golfing out here in the winter, almost impossible to get tee times.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that's right, Theo. I did. I won Theo's Cactus Sweeper his first year too.
Yeah. Yeah. What is it about the sweepers? Is it just the short format, or
I think it is. I think it is. I don't mind the short formats. I know the better players love the longer formats, like I do too. The longer formats weed out the player. It makes it. The longer formats help the better players, weeds out the players who aren't quite there yet. And I'm not saying they're bad. They're just not at that level yet. That's why longer formats are always great. Short formats, anything can happen, man. Just like on TV shows, one game, it's a toss-up. And then if your strategy ain't good, then I've gotten fortunate enough to, when I bowled Theo Sweeper, there was a couple of squads before me. So I got to see kind of how the lanes developed and got pretty fortunate that in practice I found a pretty good look that didn't go away. And I think I shot 730 or 740 for the 3 games. And I think it took +20 to cash. So
okay. So you've mentioned kind of along the way some of the organizations and folks that are helping you out. You talked about Royal
yeah,
Flush,
yep,
obviously Hammer by looking at your
hmm
hat. You are also an influencer with Virtue Bowling Supply, as you
yes,
mentioned.
yes,
They have an influencer program that they're
yeah,
promoting right now.
hmm
I reached out to Craig Spencer. He told me a
uh,
little about it. It's solely
yeah,
focused on its members having a
hmm
positive influence on bowling. He said there is a skill based category, but
yeah,
it's not just about skill. They still have to be
no,
doing other things to positively influence the sport.
yeah,
And when it came to you, he
uh-huh.
said that you are great at helping others, coaching, giving away equipment often, and he called you an ambassador in the sport. He said you've also been a longtime friend of his for 20 years.
hmm
He said he's found the key differentiator among the elite players is the ability to maintain humility and approachability from the lower skilled players, even
yeah,
more so wanting to help them and not feel annoyed, irritating, or becoming condescending. He said Parker Bone is a great example of this, and Matt has it as well.
wow, that isn't crazy to be mentioned in the same breath as Parker Bow. Not gonna lie, but I do try to hold myself to like a standard, and like again, like I told you before, I love helping people. Like I like seeing faces when something's going right, or some people might be struggling getting equipment, so I'll have some old stuff laying around. I'm like, hey, here you go. Like you hope this helps, and I've never become annoyed or anything like that with any bowler coming over to you. Like I said, you can ask any of them, Theo, Carl, and all them. I can be bowling my worst set ever. And if someone came up to them and say, hey, Matt, do you got a second? I always give them my second, no matter what.
Yeah. I was going to say that's the kind of thing that takes not only resources, but time.
Right.
And, I would think for someone, it's an investment in that
Right.
time
It is.
because you're trying to make somebody, better at the sport. When you
Mhm.
see somebody that you've spent that time with succeed, bowl
Uh-huh.
a high game, do something they've
Right.
never done before, what does that
Uh-huh.
feel like for you?
It's great, greatest feeling ever. Like it's better than any of my individual accomplishments. Like one of my favorite moments was getting to watch my wife shoot her first 300 game. I told her she just recently shot it this year, and I told everyone that is my favorite 300 game that's ever happened in my career. So like seeing other people succeed, I love it. Like I've gotten to do my fair share of accomplishments, and I'm very happy with what I've done in bowling. Um, I just want to be one of those people that do good for the sport. You know what I mean? So I just try to help as many people as possible. Even, when they ask, I'm never annoyed. I'm always like, yeah, what do you need? What do you need help with? What's the question? Even when people ask me about hammer equipment, or when people ask me about Virtue Bowling Supply, or when people ask me about Royal Flush, I'm never irritated. I'm always here to answer any questions you have about them.
That's awesome. Carl says you seem to find it quicker.
Something like that, yeah. Something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
Was your wife into bowling before she met you?
Yeah, she was. So I met her. So we've been together 15 years now, and she was bowling before me, but she used to no thumb it, which she still can. But I remember having the conversation. I'm like, hey, so do you want to get better? She's like, yeah, I really do. And I'm like, yeah, you're gonna have to put your thumb in the ball then, because she didn't quite throw it hard enough to be a no thumber. So 450 rev rate with 12-mile-per-hour speed doesn't do well. So it took her a while, but now she's about a 215 average, 210, 215. She's not afraid to bowl in patterns, struggles, but she's learning, and it's actually made her a better bowler. Like we bowl a pattern league that Theo runs, funny enough, on Tuesday nights, and we bowl red square, which is, the devil's pattern.
Oh, yeah.
We bowl Dick Weber, we just got finished with, and now we're going to Wolf, I think, for these last 4 weeks. But she loves bowling. I'm like, she's never like, oh, I don't want to bowl because they're hard. She's like, nope, let's bowl this league. It's definitely made her a better bowler for sure. And then she got her first 300 this year, which is great. It was so awesome to watch. I mean, if you ever want to see it, man, just go on my Facebook. It happened in, I want to say January, February, March, somewhere around there. I think it was February, March. But yeah, I was more excited than she was.
Yeah. Set the scene a little. Are you guys like on the same team when this happened?
Yes. So we bowl in the same team. We bowl this Monday night league, Bolero House out here. And she has the first like 8 or 9 in a row, and I just don't ever say anything because I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah.
She throws the first one in the 10, dead flushes it. She goes Brooklyn on the 11th one and gets it. And I could tell she's getting nervous. And I told her, I said, look, don't think about anything. It's like the whole entire bowling center stopped. And you know how that is. That's so nerve-wracking. So I told her, I was like, look, the only thing you need to focus on is just hit your mark. That's it. Because like if it's your first 300 and you're in that position, there's 100 million different things going in your head. Like, I got to make sure I do this. I got to make sure my speed's right. I got to make sure I hit on it the same way. I told her one thing. Yep. And sure enough, she lets it go. High flush. Like, wow. It's like she's not like she's done it before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So no, and that's, like I said, that's my favorite 300 game I've ever seen. It's my favorite one by far.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Yep. Two hands is where it's at, says my guy Peyton Schwetz. I'm sure I'm sure you can imagine how he delivers the ball.
Oh, my son, he's like very little bit in the bowling. He's a two-hander. I love it. Like bowling has to evolve. Like I'd never get into that argument of one-handed, two-handed. Bowling evolves. And my son throws a two-handed. He's probably like 440 or 540, 550 rev rate doing it. So he just has to learn, where it's going, when, what to throw, when to throw, where to play. But he loves it. Like he tried one-handed and he just didn't enjoy it very much. He went to two-handed, loves it now. Yeah.
How involved are you in his development? Would you say you're his coach?
Not really. I mean, he's 18. Okay. So, he works and whatnot. So he's just getting back into it. I try to help him as much as I can. I'm just not very good at coaching as far as two-hander goes. That's something obviously significantly new. So he has guys like Craig Spencer and stuff who has the coaching for two-handed. So anytime when he gets back into it, he's probably going to go to them to sharpen up his game a little bit.
Yeah. Where do you go from here? I mean, you've had all the success. You've got these tournaments coming up. You mentioned that you never really gave the PBA a shot.
No, I didn't.
Is a one-off regional or anything like that in your future? Or
they happen. Regionals happen every once in a while. I've bowled the USBC Masters 3 times. I've made match play twice. Top 32 one time is my best finish, and that was the year Tom Hess won in Reno.
Okay.
I have an infamous 94 game at the Masters. Oh. I shot a 94 the year Fagan won. It was at Sunset Station. We had a casters round because now they don't have casters rounds anymore, but back then we did. I shot a 94 my first game because I pulled a muscle in my back there in practice.
Oh, jeez.
After taking some painkillers, I went 94, 250, 260. I shot 600 with the 94 game. and then shot like 220, 230 my next one. Made match play, but my back was so messed up. I bowled Kurt Pelon. He ran me over, and then I bowled William Crane and lost my 2 matches, but I was okay because I got that far with the messed up back. But I shot a 94 game at the Masters. Not even embarrassed about it. It happens, but that's where my heart comes in. I shot 94, which you would imagine most players are like, I'm done. I'm throwing in the towel. I'm like, you know what? My goal is to get the plus, and I managed to get the plus after 3 games.
Wow. That's got to be one of the greatest 600s ever thrown.
It was definitely embarrassing to start because you got guys like Bill O'Neill, Tommy Jones, like they can all see this score, and they're probably sitting there going like, "There's no way this guy belongs in this field." Because I would think the same thing. 100% think this like, how did you make casters round and you shot a 94 game?
Yeah,
and then I come back 250, 260, and I'm like, kind of established myself like, okay, I still do kind of belong here. And then I got ran over in match play, but it happens. And then the year Hess won, I bowled some kid from Colorado, won, lost to Rick Stillsmith. I mean, no slouch. Beat George Lambert, and then I lost to Ronnie Russell.
Okay. So yeah.
So I've had some success at the Masters. I mean, some, not great success, but I've had some.
Hey, and and the fact that you're willing to give it a go, I mean, that's awesome.
I'll bowl it again. I'll bowl it again. I think that's another one of my things is I want to go out there and try it again. Not sure when that will be, but I will try the Masters again at some point.
Cool. One of the other things that Carl told me was that he can confidently say that JJ, your dad, would be immensely proud of all of your accomplishments. Not only have you become unbelievably successful as a bowler, but he says that you've also grown into an exceptional man, husband, and father. He says your dad would undoubtedly be proud of the legacy that you're creating.
I would hope so. I mean, I try to do, things that my dad would do. I try to be the best person I possibly can in the bowling community with my family. So, man, I really appreciate those words from Carl because, Carl's another guy like Theo. I look up to both of them, man. They do a lot for the bowling community that, I'm super proud to call them my friends.
Yeah. He says, all heart. I love that. That's great. Yeah. Of course, I had to ask him about your being a Bears fan.
Yes, I am a Bears fan.
Yeah, he said, it's not easy these days, but he says your loyalty shows your resilience. He says that you stick with your team no matter what, which says a lot about your character. He says, but hey, not everyone can be smart enough to root for the 49ers. I don't know. I mean,
I'm hoping the Bears have a better season this year. I know the Caleb Williams draft, not a whole lot of people are excited about it because, a lot of people like Justin Fields. And I'd say you're a Green Bay fan and we've been taking whoopings from you for God knows how long. But I'm hoping we have a better year. We have an insane offense. Our offense on paper looks really good. Yeah. I'm just hoping Caleb could, make that offense mesh. I really do. And if not, it's just another season for us Bears fans.
That's right. Does your fandom go back to 06, 85?
Oh, God. My first game I ever watched as a kid was Walter Payton.
Oh, okay.
So that's how I got into just being a Bears fan. I got to watch, arguably one of the greatest running backs of all time. Yeah. And so that they were my team since then. All right. And so I'm through with them through thick and thin, no matter how bad or good they are.
Look at this guy. Look at this guy. That just means you want to see it again, right? Yeah.
Oh, Brett Favre, Rodgers.
His 49ers got us last year. I know.
Oh, man, they're so good, and they just continue to get better and stay better.
Yep. God. Yep. They'll have their.
That was my dad's team. He liked the Joe Montana, Jerry Rice combo. How good were they back then? It's pretty insane.
Incredible. Yeah. Just you just throw your hands up and say, well,
right.
They did it again.
Yep.
And they probably will in this generation too, but
yeah, I'm sure. Well, it's hard to beat Patrick Mahomes, man. It's so hard to beat that dude.
It is for sure. All right. So you've seen one of these before. We end things up by going off the sheet, and that's where I ask you to challenge somebody, just like you've been challenged by Theo, and Carl's been challenged by Robert Smith. It doesn't have to be the greatest bowler in the world, but certainly can be. We look for people who are passionate about the sport and have a unique story to tell. So, Mr. Birthday Boy, Matt Jones, who would you like to challenge to be on a future episode?
So I was thinking about this for a while, and I want this person to be on there because he just started up his company. It's doing pretty well. Pharrell Williams. I feel like he'd be a great person to have on the show, especially now he's got Royal Flush, and they've been going huge since Deron Booker won the Masters. So I feel like he would be a good one. And his accomplishments by far, especially honor scores wise, crush mine. That dude's been throwing honor scores since he was in diapers. So, and I've known him since it's like 13. Farrell grew up in California. And so, when we heard that name, we're like, who's this guy? And then you watch him throw the ball. You're like, Jesus, this guy's insane. So I think Pharrell Williams would be a good one.
Yeah, love the suggestion, Pharaoh. If if you're seeing this and are interested in taking Matt up on his challenge, you can email me bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com or hit me up on Facebook. We can make that happen. Carl says he would be a great guest, and I like how Theo and Carl are kind of going back and forth here. Just remind Carl what my Chiefs have done to the 49ers, and he comes back with this.
And that's why I love them both, man. Their banter is great, but they're both great ambassadors to bowling out here. Same with Craig Spencer. You got a chance to chat with him. with the virtue bowling influencer stuff. I would have asked him to do it, but I know he's got a lot on his plate right now with the influencer stuff, doing his own thing with the virtue bowling. Or else I would have had you have him come on here for sure. But I know Pharaoh with his up and coming company with Royal Flush and stuff, I think he would just be great to be on the show.
Yeah, and Craig did come on the Ipsia channel, which is a little side project I do, and had a nice interview ahead of the holidays, and you can find that on Ipsia Education 3137 here on the YouTubes. It's called Hot Topics, and they've got a bunch of little bite-sized interviews for that. So if you're interested in finding out more insight from Craig, that's where he lives. But we are going to take a week off here on Bowling with the Fef to celebrate Independence Day, but then we're coming back strong. We are coming back really strong with the Queen Bee, Liz Culkin, Thursday, July 11th, 7 p.m. Central. She is currently 18th in points and money on the PWBA Tour. 3 career titles, including the 2018 U.S. Women's Open. You'll see her in action later this month at the Lucy Doubles with her partner Richie Teese. You can't help but be, impressed by her performance.
Oh God, she's insanely good. I mean, see the numbers she puts up, even in league. She puts up these telephone book numbers in league that are just insane. What her high set's 890, I believe, 889 or 890. Yeah, super insane. But she's such a great bowler, and obviously it shows. Look at her on the PWAB tours in the top 20 in points, and she's insane. She's insane.
For sure. Back at our usual time, 7 p.m. Central on Thursday, July 11th. Make sure and be here live for that one. And Connor says, thanks, Matt, for coming on the show. He said he really enjoyed hearing your bowling story. Keep doing great things and keep shining on the lanes.
Connor, appreciate it, man. You have yourself a great day, and thanks for the birthday shout out.
Yeah. And, my thanks too. Totally appreciate you coming on, and really good to get to know you and a little more of your story, even if you want to keep cheering for the Bears, I suppose. That'll be okay. But
you almost feel sorry for me, really.
I kind of do, because but then I remember that you've got all these free weekends in January, and it's like
we do.
Up for it. Yeah. No, but thank you so much. Like I said, appreciate you reaching out right away, and this was a lot of fun. I mean, to do this on your birthday, it's a pleasure for me, for sure.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me, and I'm going to continue to keep watching.
All right. I appreciate that, and thanks to everyone else who took the time to watch, even though we were head-to-head with a presidential debate. That won't happen often. But, subscribe to the channel. Like this if you like what you saw, even if you didn't. And we will see you